you're good to go.
All right, thank you, Chris. All right, so we're going to call the meeting to order. It is 5:32. Any additions or changes to the agenda? Okay. Anyone here for public comment? Guys are making my job easy tonight. Review and approval of the minutes from September 28th. Alice, are you okay with the minutes?
Yes, I'm fine.
Okay. Would you be willing to make a motion?
Oh, yes, a motion to approve.
Okay, I second it. All right. If you agree, thumbs up. There we go. Thanks. New business. Okay, so I'm going to hand this over to the team, and we're going to have an introduction of the curriculum team and then the plan for the year.
Yeah, I want to thank you, Renee, and Alice for your flexibility. I know we had to cancel our meeting last month, and obviously this meeting today is sort of a switching in gears based on the circumstances of what we're facing right now. And before doing the introductions, I'm going to just give a quick lay of the land. So you know why we have these people here tonight. And just for review purposes, our director of curriculum and instruction, Mary Ellen Simmons, has resigned from her position. She'll be finishing up this week, and obviously that's a huge situational change for the people on this screen, for all of us, for all of our teachers, all of our kids. But we are very confident that we're in a good place to not just like survive the year, but actually really make some good progress in some of the work that we need to do. Looking at how schools are faring in general right now with the COVID situation. But I'm confident that with the team that we have in place here, that we're going to be okay. And so the decision is going to be to not replace Mary Ellen officially for the rest of this year in an interim situation, but to go through with our team as you see here. And we are confident that we're going to be able to get the work done and make the progress we need. And then thoughtfully look at replacing that position for next year, and really taking our time to do it right. So that's the plan going forward. We look at the director of curriculum position split in almost two parts. There's the primary part that deals with the management of curriculum, instruction, and assessment for our district, right? But there's also another key component to this job, which goes around grant management. That's a very big piece. And I'll talk a little bit about how we're going to address that as well, more toward the end of this discussion. But for now, the folks here are here to talk about the plan going forward with curriculum, instruction, and assessment. And I'm going to let these guys introduce themselves. And I'm going to lead off by, I think I'm going to introduce Chris first. Are you going to lead off and then you're going to pass the baton? Sound good?
I'll go for it. Thanks, Chris.
Great.
I was joking with Chris this morning that I've decided I'm going to change and actually be called my real name, which is Christine, because I've been too many meetings with Chris and it's Chris, and it's rather confusing. But I've tried Christine once in my life and it didn't work for me. So I'm Chris Farnham. I currently am the math instructional coach in the district. I started, I believe, 22 years ago in Berry City School. I taught several years as a second grade teacher, then became a math interventionist and have held that position for about 12 years until I became the math instructional coach. So welcome. It's nice to see you. Thanks for having us here.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lorraine Morris, and I am also an instructional coach for literacy. I've been in the district for about 19 years. I started out as a fourth grade classroom teacher for most of the time. And probably within the last 3 years, I've taken on the literacy coaching position. Thank you for having us. Karen?
Sure, I'll go next. So
Oh.
I'm Karen Fredericks. I have been in the district for 14 years, and I started out working at Berry City as a special ed para professional, and then moved into teaching 5th and 6th grade literacy and social studies for the bulk of that time. And like Lorraine, became a literacy coach, and more recently, MTSS coordinator, so helping to connect the buildings with different systems and supporting teams with data analysis and looking at data.
I am Venus Steen. I taught 5th and 6th grade at Berrytown for a number of years. Then I was a math interventionist in their math lab. I became the math curriculum coordinator, and I did that for 4 years. Then I was also a coach during that time, and now I'm an interventionist at Berry City, and I'm going to help out with some of the curriculum work that needs to get done till that rest of the year. Jean?
Hi, and I'm Jean Hager. I work with an organization that's based in Maine called the Great Schools Partnership, and I've had the great pleasure of working with all of you folks in Barrie for the past 5 years. As I'm going into my 5th year working with you all. And in addition to working with the Barrie School District, I've also worked with a number of other districts in Vermont and Maine, including Williamstown Northfield. And so I'm delighted to be part of this team. I've been working with these folks for all of the years that I've been at Barrie. So, I feel like it's a real strong team for me to be joining.
And I really appreciate you guys giving these detailed introductions. I think the number, Chris, that you said was that with the folks who are on our staff on this team here, we're talking about 74 years of experience in the district. We're talking about a long time here. And one of the reasons that I'm feeling confident and our leadership team is feeling confident in this group of people is that there is clearly universal trust and respect with our teachers throughout the district for this team. So there's confidence in them. There's a desire to work with them. There's a desire to get coaching and counsel from them. So that's why we're feeling like we're going to be in good shape to get through this year. And I just kind of want to hand this off to you guys to explain the plan both in the short term and the long term through the year and what we're thinking here. Who would like to lead off with that?
Do you want me to take it? Okay, so with the exiting of Mary Ellen, we just decided that we went to Chris and said that we'd like to develop a curriculum steering committee, and that part of our charge would be just evaluating the systems that we have so far. We know obviously where we were pre-COVID, and we lost a lot of momentum over that time, and still, and we'd like to just reevaluate where we are and potentially develop a 3-year PD plan that would take all of our previous work and the work that we've been doing into account and help sort of move us back in the direction that we need to go. And that would be our big thing. And through that, we would be taking a close look at all of the work and utilizing Jean and trying to develop more written curriculum materials that people were sort of envying last year when they were able to see materials like the Virtual Academy had. So sort of everything at a glance that people thought, well, wow, that'd be really nice if we had something like that available for parents at Berrytown and Berry City, so that we were a little more transparent. So we would aim toward that. and sort of do a lot of the background work that would allow teachers to dig in a little deeper when they're not so in the trenches with COVID.
I'll just jump in quickly. One of the things that I've particularly appreciated this year more than ever, I think, that will help in this transition is the really thoughtful recovery plan for the school improvement plan that you all have developed, and also the strategic plan. And so I think between both of those documents, it provides a really clear roadmap for what needs to happen in the areas of curriculum, instruction, and assessment.
I think one of the pieces that is important to note as well is that we've had, when I started back at Berry City in 2018, we've had, in those 3+ years, we've had, we've had 3 curriculum directors. I think we've had enormous turnover in that position in the last, since Mr. Pandolfo left it to become the superintendent. So it's been very, very hard to get any momentum in this area. I think it's all safe to say with the folks here that they would agree with that. And we want to take an opportunity with the help of this committee and with the help of folks on our leadership team and teacher reps, BEA reps, to really take a hard, close look at what we want to get from this position, looking at potentially restructuring the whole curriculum team in general. There were quite a few changes that were made in the last year or two that we want to look at, that not all of those changes were necessarily good for the district. We want to take a long, hard look at what do our teams need, from pre-K-8 all the way up through the high school. We really want to make sure the high school is involved in this work. And something else to consider is that historically, when I was and Renee, back to when you were teaching at Spalding High School, the curriculum work was much more localized at Spalding, and it really has remained so. Much of the district curriculum work has happened more at the K-8 level, and we really want to approach this in the future from a K-12 lens. And I think it's really important that that's part of the discussion. So that's why we just thought this is a real good opportunity with the people on this screen who know this district well, who know our faculty and staff well, to really start hearing from folks and developing a plan based exactly what you said, Jean, on the strategic plan and the recovery plan as well. So, Alice, you had a question?
Yeah, I do. And my question is basically plans. We certainly have been behind the 8 ball on our results in math and literacy for longer than COVID has been around. And we've had any number of plans come our way, go away, come back again. If we're spending all our time planning, what is actually being done to assist the kids in improving their skills and mastering the necessary skills in literacy and math? And I'm a little frustrated because I'm hearing, a tremendous history of people here in the district, but all the way through those years, there are kids that are just flatlined all the way through, and we haven't seen any overall improvement in test scores to illustrate that the kids really are mastering the programs. So I guess my question is, if we're spending all this time planning, when is it going to hit the ground so it's really going to affect the kids?
Yeah.
So Alice,
I was going to say, Venus, before you jump in, that a lot of the work that's being done statewide right now is preparing for this post-COVID world, right? And you're right. I mean, the test scores historically have not always been where we want them to be, but we've got to get to a point where we have the structures in place so that we can hit the ground running when we get the kids where they're supposed to be. It is going to take some time to help kids recover from this pandemic, though. There's no doubt. That's the reality.
But the recovery is part of it. But we were below the red line before COVID. Then COVID pushed us well below the red line. So we've got 2 elevator floors to go up. We've got our past history and COVID. And again, what frustrates me is that we're going to plan. And that continues to be my question. If all of the skills that you have sitting in front of you right now are involved in planning, when is it going to be implemented?
So I will say, Alice, that a couple of years before COVID struck, we had in the math department worked really hard on working on differentiation and inclusion. We were training every teacher in the district. We were providing coaching. There was a lot of sort of qualitative data that was pointing us in the direction that what we were doing was working. There was some really positive SBAC results that came out of the initial work that was done by teachers in that course. And so that was like at the end of Jackie's reign that we were really sort of getting off the ground and doing a lot of really positive work. And we had sort of a 3-year vision of how we were going to continue to support teachers and move kids. And then we got, one new curriculum director, and then we got another one right after that. And then COVID, and we just were never allowed to continue that work and see it through. And so what we're seeing now is teachers who had that and it sort of haven't really known how to continue growing in that way. And so one of the things that we're hoping is that that we can create the sort of the next steps. What we're being told right now by sort of everyone around the state is that teachers are maxed out. They can't handle much more in the way of doing a lot of curriculum stuff beyond like trying to help kids in the day-to-day through their recovery. But we want to make sure that we can pick up some of that work because it was meaningful. And the other thing I think our district needs to engage in is a conversation about how we assess what kids know. Is the SBAC really the only thing that we care about? Because if it is, then maybe we need to think about the way that we're educating our kids. A perfect example is 6th grade. They have put so much time and energy into changing their instruction and really like teaching kids to such a depth of knowledge, really for one instance, like dividing fractions, which is a really tough thing for kids to conceptually understand. And we're seeing kids who do. And then they get to the SBAC, and the only thing the SBAC asks them to do is solve using an algorithm. And they don't know the algorithm. And so we have to decide, is that something that we want to say, no, we really just want kids to ace the SBAC, so teach to the test, or we want them to have a really solid understanding of mathematics, and that may not always show up on the SBAC based on the way that they're testing. And if that's the case, what are our other measures? Why do we only have one? Because I think kids know a lot more than the SBAC says they do.
Yeah, that's something that I've heard repeatedly from my colleagues for literacy and math, that a lot of what we get out of our local assessments can be a lot more powerful and meaningful for sure. The problem is that's how we're measured against each other, right? Karen, you had a question or a comment?
Yeah, I was going to add 2 points. One, Alice, was that I think the history that we all have kind of as teachers previously kind of supports what you said. Like, we are aware of our students not making the gains and the growth that we'd like to see, which is kind of what has brought us all to the positions that we're in right now, and wanting to help make that change and support teachers with their universal instruction at that first level. So having all the relationships that we have with other teachers will be much more likely to gain traction. For instance, than a curriculum director who might not be as in tune with where our teachers and our students are. So I'm hopeful that that experience and those relationships will help us to make those steps to get those successes that we all want to see, that will lead to more success. And my other consideration was work that we have teachers doing this year with professional learning committees. So twice a month they have content groups where they have set goals for themselves and action steps, and they're working towards those action steps within their professional learning committees, which we support too. Thanks.
Yeah, and I think just building on what Karen was just saying, I think that's where I've seen huge growth in the schools, is increasing teachers' skill and appreciation for working collaboratively. You know, teachers are better together, and they certainly know that now more than ever. And Venus, when you were asking about what other measures are teachers using, one of the things that we're starting to see more in those groups that Karen was mentioning is teachers just bringing their own work to share with one another and say, this is what my students are doing. What are your students doing? What can I learn from you? So that there's more of an open dialogue, so teachers can really learn from one another and not be totally dependent on, you know, a district level professional development, but the professional development is happening internally with teachers connecting with other teachers.
So some of the
Are there any more questions or things anybody wants to share out?
Just wanted to say some of the work that's going to be going on in the short term is planning for our upcoming professional days. I know a lot of work has already gone into that right now. We have one in following Martin Luther King Day in mid-January. And then, really, putting a lot of work into the process of choosing our next curriculum director and getting that whole team put together. But there will be a lot of ground level, coaching level, working with kids work that's going to be happening between now and the end of the school year with these guys. So, I think, in terms of future meetings, one of the things that Mary Ellen and I think you had set up as sort of a calendar of having different teams come to visit. That is something we're also going to revisit, talking to teams. And I think, that's something we haven't talked about yet, guys. I know that calendar was already set up, but I think that's something in one of our next discussions, we get that all set up so we can have a revised calendar for the 5 or 6 meetings in 2022 that we'll be having with this committee, so that those folks can come and give updates on where they're at with their work. Does anybody else have anything else to share or add? Okay.
All right, I guess we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is old business. Do we have any old business? Sounds like, Chris, you're already planning to address that.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. I think we addressed that calendar, and we'll reach out to those teams who are already set up to come. Some of them might be able to keep in place, but the arts folks were scheduled to meet with you this November, and I let them know that's going to be postponed. So, so we'll regroup on that.
Okay. Is there any other business? Items for future agenda. Alice, is there anything else that was not on the calendar that you'd like to see?
No, I'd just like to continue to see if we are using local formative testing. Are there results from that we can see? And I continue to use this as my primary example is if the third graders don't know their nines times tables, can you show us that they're mastering them now because of all the work of the recovery plan and the strategic plan and the coaching and the team meetings? Have the kids actually learned the nines times tables in the third grade so that they can proceed well into the rest of the year as the third graders and then go on to the fourth grade and do what needs to be done in that level. So I'd really like to see a report on what all this planning and teaming and conversation and all that, how has it affected the students? Are they improving or are they just going along to go along? And that would be my question.
Okay. All right, so our next meeting is currently scheduled for December 28th. Chris, are you looking at changing that?
I think we're going to have to. I know that I am going to be away on the 28th. I don't want to have folks come in over vacation for that. I mean, I could reschedule maybe another night that week if you guys want to connect. My suggestion, however, would be to regroup in January. At that point, we'll have, because we do have a pretty full docket for meetings in December. We have 2 board meetings. I know. I don't think after this next vacation, we're going to have a whole lot more to share before, say, the 20th of December. But we will have some updates for sure in January. When is the one in January scheduled, Renee? Is it usually the end? 28th.
Andrea, do you have that offhand?
I can look at my calendar.
It might take me a minute. Is it what Tuesday of the month is this right now? I'm not in front of a calendar.
It was supposed to be next week. So
Which
I
would
think
be the third.
I believe it's the 3rd. Let me just check.
Okay.
It's
So
the
third
25th.
Tuesday?
25th of January is the next one.
Okay.
I mean, that will be just following the semester break. We will have had some time. I would recommend that we regroup on January 25th.
Okay. Andrea, since it's this far ahead, that shouldn't be a problem, right?
No, shouldn't be a problem at all. And I'll let
Okay.
Tina know.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay. Oh, I lost my agenda.
Well, do we have anything in particular scheduled for January, or are you going to develop that closer to the meeting?
We're going to redevelop the presentation calendar and talk to those folks who are already on it. I think the key thing is want to meet with those folks and prioritize the teams that really should be coming forward. I know I'd like to have our special education folks come. I know that was requested. I just like to take a look with these folks here at what that calendar was and prioritize it, given that we'll have, I think, 5 or 6 meetings left when we regroup in January.
All right, so I can mark it as to be determined, and you'll come up with it when you do. And in the parking lot, I can try to form something for Alice's request.
Sure.
And was there still a plan to see the test results from the fall? Or is that gone by the wayside at this point?
Well, it hasn't gone by the wayside. I think what we want to do is make sure we're in a place where we can present them in a meaningful way. So I mean, I think keep it on the parking lot.
Keep it in the parking lot, and we'll just this next meeting will be to be determined.
Mm-hmm.
A lot more will be in place by mid-January, guys, and we appreciate your patience. It's pretty extraordinary losing your director of curriculum in November. It's an extraordinary situation, but we're going to be okay.
Alice, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just concerned that the longer we hold any test results, no matter what they are, and I mean, even if they are difficult to look at. I think the longer we hold them, there could be more questions about why we're doing that. So if for January, we could maybe get an overview of what those results were and how they looked, that might just be a little bit more transparent for anybody who is concerned with test results. And we all know, and certainly understand, that they may not be the most glorious test results, but it was a difficult year.
Yeah, the questions that come up around the state are less about what the results are than the validity of them, given the situation. That's the big concern that's happening all around. But it's
Yeah,
a good
you can,
point.
and you can just say that
Yeah,
there is a question of
warts and all.
define reliability, validity, all of those things, so individuals who don't understand that, and whether or not there is any significant difference in any of that testing, then explain it. And it probably will be a whole lot better than holding them back and everybody wondering what the problem is.
Sounds good. You're muted, Renee.
Did you say something, Renee?
You'd think I'd have it by now. I'm looking for a motion to adjourn. Alice? Tim? Okay, I'll second it.
So moved.
All right,
Sorry, guys.
that's okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thumbs up if
Good
you're ready
night.
to adjourn. All right,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you all for joining. I'll stop the recording now. Thanks all.
Great, thank you, Chris.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye all.
Have a good night.
Good night.